Hi, well, with patch 7.3 believed to be imminent, Ian Hazzikostas and Law took to Twitch, the World of Warcraft Twitch, to do another live Q&A based on the patch 7.3. Now, I'm going to go through a few things that they said and throw in some of my own comments in there as well. This is actually going to be in several parts, and the reason is there were several distinct themes within their Q&A. In fact, I would actually say for this patch 7.3 Q&A, only about half of it, if that, was actually about what's coming in patch 7.3. They also talked a lot about, philosophy and ideas on the content that is current and past. So I'm going to be talking about those as well. So I'm going to focus in this one in just what is coming and my own sort of thoughts about that, as well as Blizzard's thoughts on it. So first of all, when a patch launches, it's not always apparent from the PTR exactly what you're going to get. I fell into this trap in 7.2. In fact, my most watched video is a video of these are the things to do on the first day when patch 7.2 launches. The problem is that some of the things I was talking about didn't launch with patch 7.2 because unbeknownst to us, obviously on the PTR, they let us test all aspects of it, but not everything is launched at the start and you don't know how they're time gating it because that time gating doesn't really exist on the PTR. They want us to test the content. So Blizzard this time, and all credit to them, thank you very much, have explained what is going to come and when in advance. So they identify the content as coming in 5 distinct chapters. Now let me tell you what sort of content there is from what I've seen on the PTR. So first of all, you have 3 different zones. You do quests in each one. So you initially go to Argus, you do a quest throughout one zone. Once you've done that major quest line, you end up going to the other zone, and then you go to the 3rd zone. These zones are not connected by land. You can't just walk from one to another. You need little Argus shuttles to get you from one to the other. So it can easily block you off getting to one zone before you should be getting to it. There's no flying on Argus. So, we're stuck very much on terra firma or Argus firma. There's also new style invasions going to be there. There's a new dungeon. The new Netherlight Crucible, which is what is going to be there to augment our artifacts. In fact, I'm quite pleased I didn't do the Netherlight Crucible video until I'm going to do it on Monday, because anyone who's done a video on it, and there have been YouTubers who've done videos on it, unfortunately they've got the details wrong. No fault of theirs, because how it is in the PTR Blizzard have just been talking about yesterday is not how it's going to be, but more about that on Monday. You've also got new vendors, there's new profession things to do, new faction, new missions, and all the rest of it. So they identify 5 distinct chapters. In the first week, they're going to release what they call chapters 1 and 2. And what they said about that is going to be the first, the world quests. They didn't, as far as I can tell, say how many zones that is, but from what I could gather from what they were saying, I think that is going to be one of the zones, not the first 2 or anything like that. The way it sounds like in the first week, one of the zones will be active with world quests, as well as the new missions and also the new faction with the vendor available there, although some of the tastiest stuff is at Exalted. Some of the things the vendor sells are patterns for leather workers and jewel crafters, it seems mostly. We also get, just like in WoD, a permanent augment rune. You have to build your faction up. You're not going to be getting this straight away. But so for all those who have a stock of augment runes now, you can basically use them up, because as soon as 7.3 goes live, in theory, we'll be able to get a permanent one. In reality, of course, you've got to build your faction reputation up. But once you've got it up, you can have a permanent augment rune, at which point the current defiled augment runes will be worthless. So if you're in the market of selling these things, selling them now is a lot better than selling them after 7.3 goes live. So the other thing it sells of note is the mount, the Lightforged Golem type mount. You need to be exalted for that, and it's going to cost about just under 500,000 gold. So not on the spider realm of things. It's expensive, but it's not hideously expensive for those who really want it. Week 2, You're going to be getting what are called the Macquarie invasion points, which sounds like invasion is going to be released at that point, as well as the new zone and obviously the new world quest on that zone. And then in the third chapter, which is in the third week, they're going to say the Netherlight Crucible and the dungeon, but they said that that will unlock very quickly. So what it sounds like to me, unlocking the Netherlight Crucible and the PTR involved doing quite a long quest chain. It was a solo quest chain. It was fine, so to speak. But what I'm hoping is going to be the case is you can basically get all of that quest line done in the first 2 weeks, so that all you have to do then is the final bit. I'm not going to release details storyline wise, spoiler wise, of what that is. The final bit, which then unlocks it probably in about 10 minutes. That's what I'm hoping is going to happen. Now, the reason they've done this, they say, is because they want some focus. Because otherwise there could just be loads and loads to do, and people might miss aspects of the storyline as they do things in a random order. And because people would want to push for the Netherlight Crucible, maybe there's an argument of people not stopping to smell the roses or really appreciate what's going on in there. Because the quests, I have to say to you, Blizzard announced this before the PTR went up, and they're dead right. Some of these quests have in-game cinematics attached to them. We haven't seen them on the PTR. We just see the screen go black and then come back again. Or they show the original WoW trailer. But they have a lot of cinematics. A lot of them. Now, we don't know exactly what happens in them, because that, as I say, is secret. It's not going to be put in until the game goes, or until the patch goes live. But there are a lot of them, and they don't want people to sort of miss a lot of the work they've done in it. Now, previously I might have said that with time gating, one cunning trick of time gating is it's a way of trying to keep people subscribed to avoid the cycle of having, say, 1 million players subscribe for a month, do the content, unsubscribe till the next patch. This is not that, because it's coming out over a period of 15 days. Now, if someone does subscribe for a month, then they can still do that and do all the content and still unsubscribe at the end of that month. So this is done, I absolutely believe, for purely game development purposes. So I'm going to take them at their word as what it is. And it does make sense. There is, in theory, a lot to do, and they do want to push now. They don't want people to glut themselves on it in the first week, and then in the second week be saying, oh, is that it? There's nothing else to do now, is there? Because there is this danger. The same thing happened with the Broken Shore. We've been used over the years to the main content being released in a tier is the new raid. Obviously, the new Argus raid isn't being released. We've only just had Tomb of Sargeras. That's still the current raid tier. So going to Argus, they need to at least make it feel like there's new content for a few weeks. So I think they've drawn a compromise. They haven't tried to stretch it out like they did for Nighthold or Tomb of Sargeras lasting 3 months, which is what they tried to do in those cases. But at the same time, they've stretched it out a little bit so people, as I say, don't go in week 2. Done it all. Artifact unlocks was something else they talked about. Now, this is for alts. It's something that's good news for alts, but also it's expected news. They've been doing this all the way through Legion. I've noted a couple of people commenting on this as if, oh, Blizzard have learnt their lesson. This is not a regret Blizzard have had. This is a deliberate plan right from the start of Legion, that they put things in the game that means it takes you a certain amount of time to do content. They need to be able to do that because, again, they don't need people to exhaust all the content in a week and then have nothing to do. So that's why, for example, unlocking your 3rd relic slot when you first get an alt is it's really weird now, because when I did it on my rogue, I got to about 880 item level before I had my 3rd relic slot unlocked, somewhere between 870 and 880 item level anyway, because there's a certain amount of time it takes, because you have to do the missions, so the other content you can burn through it really quickly. Even when you have to do some world quests, you can do that really quickly, but the missions take a set amount of time, so you're stuck for a few days on those at least. So they're removing that now. So now when you get to 110, there's a couple of things going to happen. First of all, you're going to have your relic slot already there. So you're going to have your 3rd relic slot. And you're going to be at 41 artifact knowledge. No messing about having to do the Broken Shore, because when 7.3 comes out, as solo content goes, Broken Shore will be old content. Obviously, they still want to make it relevant, but it's still old content. So you're not going to have to go to the Broken Shore either to get your artifact unlocked. And you're not going to have the thing that we have at the moment where you've got the old artifact traits and then you have to do the quest to unlock the new artifact traits. You're going to be going straight into the new artifact traits, is how I understood what they were saying. Obviously, I don't have an alt in that position to be able to test that on the PTR, but I'm pretty sure that that was the meaning of it. That in other words, you get to 110, you've got 3 relic slots in your artifact weapon, your artifact knowledge 41, and you've got the artifact traits as we have them now, ready to go. The other thing about artifact knowledge, so, we're at 40 at the moment, hopefully, most of us are. So we're going to be at 41 as soon as the patch goes live. And then you don't have to put in order resources to research more. I have to say I fall down on that. I have got several characters. The only reason they're artifact knowledge 40, my alts now, is because I bought the tome on my paladin when he got to 40 and sent it around. Because the other ones have been slacking. You could think, well, it's no big deal. Surely just log in, I can't even be bothered to do that. Now artifact knowledge will happen automatically. It won't be every 5 days either. It'll be every week. But you'll just automatically get it. You don't have to do anything. In fact, my characters on the PTR are at something like 46 at the moment, I think, 45, 46. Haven't done anything. It's just happened automatically. One thing that was asked, I'm just a throwaway comment this because Blizzard have already addressed this before, but people were asking again, are the invasions on the Broken Isle still going to continue? And the answer is to that, yes. They've said that even though chronologically we've beaten back the Burning Legion from Azeroth, it's like when we're on the Broken Isles, that hasn't happened yet. Just like he said, really, we shouldn't have loads of Scourge wandering around Northrend. But, we do. Because when we're in those zones, chronologically, we haven't done that content yet. We haven't defeated that boss. Order halls. There are a few nice changes coming with this with the Order Hall champions for those who are interested in their missions. Now, one problem we have at the moment, I'm on, some of my characters at the moment, and they're doing very badly because it takes quite a while to build up the item level of your champions, if say nothing of the experience. So there's going to be a few new items to help with that. First of all, I've noted on my missions that you can get missions that reward an item that automatically boosts your champion to 925 item level. And then you can use the other armor tokens to bump up others as necessary. But every now and then you'll get these missions that will give you a token for straight away 925 instantly grow a champion. Then there are other little bonus items as well for the champion items. I've noted there's one I saw in my order hall that slots into the champion item slot and gives them a plus 50% chance success on missions. And that was a blue item, so maybe even there's an epic version of that as well. So champions are getting a bit of love as well, so you can catch up. So it's all about the catch up, really, isn't it? So you create a new character, you are able to catch up fairly quickly with it, and it doesn't really matter whether you're a new player or a returning player or an alt. You will be able to get yourself caught up fairly quickly in a number of areas. I suppose the one area where you won't be able to is legendaries. That's still up to RNG. But in terms of everything else, as they've been doing through Legion, they have made it more and more friendly for new characters, whether they, as I say, be alts or genuinely new characters. In terms of the artifact appearances and stuff like that, there's been a little bit of a shift. First of all, they did say there's no more new artifact appearances coming in, but there are a couple of changes as well. One change that we welcome from my point of view is with the hidden appearances, to get access to the recolors of them, particularly like the Mage Tower one, you had to have that skin equipped, so to speak, and do the content to get credit for it. That's not going to be the case in 7.3, which is good news for me because I don't particularly like it, but I'd sort of want to get those recolors anyway. But then that brings me on to the next point. So the reason I would quite like to get those recolors, I've said this before, is because Blizzard had said that once Legion's over, they're going to make it possible. They're still working on the details of it, right? But they want it to be possible for us to have those skins in our transmog to be able to map onto normal weapons that we get in future expansions. but that when Legion finishes, we won't be able to get these anymore. And there's lots of expansions where they've brought in content that you can't access later on, like the old Legendary quest lines, for example. We can't do those anymore. But Blizzard have relented on this one, and they've said that they're looking at ways of allowing us to get, even if you don't get all those artifacts appearance unlocks after Legion's finished, we've got the new expansion, they still are going to work on ways to allow us to do that. It won't be in the same way, of course, because some of that content would be too difficult to do once it's no longer the current expansion. So they are looking at other ways of allowing us to unlock those things. So that's good news as well. So the idea that you don't necessarily have to get all of these things in Legion, that you will be able to get them at a future date as well, I think is encouraging news. I didn't mind it before when they said, you either get it in Legion or you don't get it at all. But I think a lot of people will be quite pleased about that, because some of these artifacts are fairly iconic now, even though most of them were just made up on the spot. For Legion, a lot of them are highly desirable amongst a great many players. That brings me on to more tangible gear. So at the moment, another bit of a catch-up again for Alex particularly, but also if with Titanforge being a thing for mains as well, there are people who take regular trips to the vendors on the Broken Shore with their nether shards to get some gear in the hope of getting a 955 item level relic or trinket or whatever. And it's a good way for, again, newly dinged characters to get some gear quickly. Well, I say quickly, if you don't mind farming the nether shards, you can get a few nice pieces and maybe get something highly desirable. But of course, the question was asked, is that nether shard vendor going to be upgraded? We know the answer to that is no, because it sort of wasn't really upgraded even for 7.2.5. What there is on Argus is there is another vendor, an ethereal again, with the same sort of stuff, only a bit higher item level this time, but you don't use nether shards on it. There's another currency instead, which we get from Argus content. So there will be an updated version of that thing, but on Argus. So the other thing to note on that, of course, is that Blizzard have said, but they've said this so many times before, sometimes they've been right and sometimes they haven't. They have said don't hold on to your nether shards because there's a new system in 7.3. That being said, they said that before because they said, oh no, you won't be able to get the new legendaries from the nether shard vendors on the Broken Shore, and we were able to, for example. Now, I know that that particular issue is not going to be there again, but with the level Titanforge cap being raised, you would think, well, I don't think it's going to be raised with 7.3 actually, but at some point it will be, presumably 7.3.5. So I'm not going to say that, there might not be some benefit to saving them up, but what they're basically saying is new gear is not going to be available for nether shards. And that's it in terms of what they were saying about the new content, barring, of course, the Netherlight Crucible. I want to talk about that on its own. On Monday, I'm going to do 2 videos on the Netherlight Crucible. One video is going to be on how it actually works as a guide so that you actually understand how it's going to work, because it's not going to be, as you might have read in guides that were produced before yesterday. Presumably those guide writers are going to update them very quickly now. So I'm going to show you how it's actually supposed to work, which is not the way it's actually working even right now on PTR. But Blizzard did clarify some things yesterday. And then I'm going to follow it up with more of a vlog on the pros and cons of the Netherlight Crucible system, what Blizzard said to justify it. And do you know what? Just for good measure, there's a little bit of what they were talking about on the issue of reforging in there as well. Runeforging, what am I on about? Nothing. I've been on my death knight today. So that'll be on Monday, but there are other videos to talk about as well. They also talked about raiding, both Mythic and LFR raiding. So that's going to be a separate video as well, which will also be coming out early next week. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it a little bit useful. If you did, don't forget to subscribe and like for further content. And until next time, I'll see you later.